Winston Churchill, the man who would not give up. Chapter 1. A Difficult Beginning. Winston Leonard Spencer. Churchill was born on November 30th, 1874, in Blenheim Palace, England. He came from an important and wealthy family, but his childhood was not easy. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a famous politician, but he was distant and often cold. Winston desperately wanted his father's approval, but rarely received it. At school, Winston struggled. He was not a strong student and had difficulty following rules. Teachers often described him as stubborn and careless. However, one thing was already clear. Winston loved words. He enjoyed reading history, memorizing speeches, and imagining himself as a great leader. These early struggles helped shape his personality. From a young age, Winston learned resilience, the ability to keep going even when things are difficult. This quality would later define his entire life. Chapter 2. Soldier, journalist, and adventurer. Because he did not succeed academically, Winston entered the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst. After graduating, he became an officer in the British Army. But Winston wanted more than a quiet military career. He wanted adventure and fame. He traveled to places like India, Sudan, and South Africa, working both as a soldier and a war correspondent. He wrote articles and books about his experiences, earning money and public attention. During the Boer War in South Africa, Winston was captured by enemy forces. In a dramatic turn of events, he escaped from prison and traveled hundreds of miles to safety. This escape made him a national hero in Britain. Newspapers celebrated his courage, and suddenly, Winston Churchill was famous. This period of his life taught him confidence, storytelling, and the power of public image. Chapter 3. Entering politics. In 1900, Winston Churchill entered politics and was elected to Parliament at just 25 years old. He was ambitious, energetic, and outspoken. Over the next years, he changed political parties, something that made many people distrust him. Churchill held several important government positions, including Home Secretary and First Lord of the Admiralty. He supported social reforms, such as workers' rights and unemployment benefits, which was unusual for someone from his background. However, not all his decisions were successful. During World War I, he strongly supported a military plan known as the Gallipoli Campaign. The operation failed badly and caused many deaths. Churchill was blamed and forced to resign. This was one of the darkest moments of his life. Chapter 4. Years in the Wilderness. After his fall from power, Churchill spent years away from the center of politics. Many believed his career was finished. He struggled with depression, which he called his black dog. During this time, he focused on writing and painting. He wrote history books, biographies, and memoirs, and he painted landscapes as a way to relax his mind. Writing became both his income and his therapy. While others ignored him, Churchill began warning about the growing danger of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. Most leaders wanted peace and did not listen. Churchill's warnings made him unpopular, but he refused to stay silent. History would soon prove him right. Chapter 5. Britain faces its darkest hour. In 1939, World War II began. Germany invaded Poland, and Europe was once again at war. In 1940, as Nazi forces advanced across Europe, Winston Churchill was appointed Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Britain stood alone. France had fallen, and invasion seemed possible. Fear spread across the country. At this moment, Churchill's greatest weapon was not the army, it was his voice. Through powerful speeches broadcast on the radio, Churchill inspired the nation. He spoke honestly about suffering, sacrifice, and struggle, but also about courage and hope. His words reminded people that giving up was not an option. Chapter 6. Words that changed history. Churchill's speeches became legendary. Phrases like, "We shall fight on the beaches," and "never in the field of human conflict," was so much owed by so many to so few, lifted morale across Britain. He understood the power of language. His speeches were carefully written, practiced, and delivered with emotion. People felt that he was speaking directly to them. Even during bombings known as the Blitz, Churchill walked through damaged neighborhoods, speaking with citizens and showing calm leadership. His presence alone gave people strength. Churchill did not promise victory without pain, but he promised that Britain would never surrender. Chapter 7. Leading the Allies. As the war continued, Churchill worked closely with U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. Together, they formed the Allied leadership that would eventually defeat Nazi Germany. Although they had different political beliefs, Churchill believed cooperation was necessary to stop Hitler. He traveled constantly, attending conferences and making strategic decisions. The war demanded difficult choices and enormous sacrifices. Millions lost their lives, but by 1945, the Allies achieved victory in Europe. Churchill had helped guide Britain through its most dangerous moment in history. Chapter 8. A surprising defeat. Despite winning the war, Churchill lost the general election in 1945. Many people wanted change and social reform after years of war. The result shocked Churchill and the world. Although no longer Prime Minister, Churchill remained active. In 1946, he gave his famous Iron Curtain speech, warning about the division of Europe and the rise of the Cold War. In 1951, he returned as Prime Minister for a second term. This time, his focus was on international peace and rebuilding Britain after the war. Chapter 9. Writer, Nobel laureate, and final years. Churchill continued writing throughout his life. In 1953, he received the Nobel Prize in Literature for his historical writings and speeches. His health slowly declined, and he retired from politics in 1955. Even then, he remained a symbol of strength and determination. Winston Churchill died on January 24, 1965, at the age of 90. His funeral was attended by leaders from around the world, honoring a man who had shaped the 20th century. Chapter 10. The Legacy of Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill is remembered as one of the greatest leaders in history, not because he was perfect, but because he never gave up. He failed many times. He made mistakes. But in the moment when the world needed courage, his voice helped change the course of history. His legacy teaches us that leadership is not about avoiding fear, but about facing it with determination, honesty, and hope. Winston Churchill stood firm when surrender seemed easier, and because of that, history changed.